In the last section, we spoke about why we are not supposed to mutate that state argument. Now, inevitably, at some point in time, you're going to be working on a reducer that is returning an array or an object, and you are going to want to change some element inside that array or some property on the object. So in this video, we're going to take a look at some very common syntax that you're going to see inside of reducers in order to work with arrays and objects, but still making sure that we are not mutating that state argument. Okay, here we go. So in this diagram, we have a couple of different operations that we can do on an array, and a couple of different operations that we could do on an object. So removing something from an array, adding something, or replacing an element in an array. Next to each of those, I have an example of the bad way to do an update to an array or an object. So everything inside of yellow is bad, and that is all code that we are not going to want to write inside of a reducer. Now, just to be really clear, we do not want to write code like this that is going to operate on our state argument. If we have some other object inside or array inside of our reducer that is not that first state argument, no problem, we can mutate it as we please. All this stuff about bad ways to update arrays and objects is only relevant to that state object, that argument right there. Okay, so on the right-hand side, you'll see the good way in which we will remove an element from an array, or add an element, or replace an element, and same thing with objects as well. Now, I'm not going to read through all these. I'm sure you can read the diagram. I would encourage you to maybe take a screenshot of this, because you're probably going to want to do one of these operations at some point in time in the future. Now, nonetheless, we are going to flip back over to our JavaScript console inside the browser, and we're going to try doing just a couple of these operations really quickly so that you understand the general idea and the syntax. All right, so I'm going to flip back over to my application with the console open. We're going to write a little bit of code inside of here to get a better idea of how to somehow manipulate arrays without mutating them inside of our reducers. So to get started, I'm going to first refresh this page, and then I'm going to clear out my console, and I'm going to redefine that array called colors. And we'll say that this has a string red and green like so. So now, as the first thing I want to show you is how we can add in an element to an array. So we do not want to do something like colors.push. That is bad. We don't want to do that. Instead, we can create a new array by putting down a square bracket and then say ... colors and then add in some new color like blue. And you'll see that we get red, green, and now we have the added element inside there of blue. So the syntax you see right here is a little bit of ES 2015 syntax. This is going to take all of the elements out of the colors array and add them into this new array that we've created right here. When we put down the square brackets, that is creating a new array in memory. And so we are not going to be modifying or making any change to the original array, and we are creating a brand new one, so Redux is going to notice that we have now returned some entirely new value from our reducer. We can very easily test that by rewriting that code and then saying equals 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 colors like so. And that's going to return false because, again, not the same array in memory. Now, when we use this ... syntax, we can very easily add in multiple elements at the same time. So I could put on another string and another string like, say, pink. Likewise, I could also, instead of concatenating or adding in new elements to the end of the array, I could say my new color as the first element and then say ... colors. So I could do something like purple and then do the ... colors. And that's going to make sure that we create a new array with the first element of purple and then all the other colors. All right, let's try another quick example here. Let's take a look at, say, removing an element from an array. So with removing an element, we can use the built-in filter function that is included on JavaScript arrays. Excuse me, I lost my tongue there. So we can make use of the built-in filter function. So let's take a quick example or a quick look at that. We could say something like colors, so we still have red and green. And then if I wanted to remove green, I would say colors.filter. And then we're going to pass in a function that is going to be called for every element inside that array. I can then either return true or false inside of here to either include or remove each given element. So I could say is color equal green. Oh, sorry, we said that we'd wanted to remove green, so I would instead say not equal to green. So now anytime that we return false from the inner function, a return value of false means that this element is not going to be included inside of some new output array. And so since color not equal to green, I would end up with red. Okay, now one thing to keep in mind with the filter function is that this is returning a brand new array. We still have the unmutated colors array in memory. And so once again, if we did that comparison, equals colors, we would get false, which is what we want. We always want to be returning brand new arrays, brand new objects. All right, let's take a quick look at how we would update properties inside of an object as well. So let's say that we again have const profile, and this person has a name of Sam, like so. And so at some point in time, we're probably going to want to update that name property. To do so, I can create a brand new object with the curly braces, and then ... profile. So that's going to take all of the key value pairs out of the profile object and add it into this new one. Now I can list off some new key value pairs over here. Any additional key value pairs that I add in will overwrite or replace the key value pairs that have been added from the profile object. So for example, I could say name of Alex. And now the output object, this is a brand new object, and it's going to have a name of Alex as opposed to the original name of Sam. Now I can do the same thing to add in new properties as well. So we could do curly braces ... profile, and we can say age of 30. So that's going to take the name of Sam out of the original profile object. It's going to take that key value pair, add it into the new object, and then also add in age of 30. I'll see Sam age 30. Now the same order of operations that you just saw a moment ago with arrays applies to objects as well. So if I make a new object and say name of Alex, and then say ... profile, the name property inside of profile is now going to overwrite the one inside of Sam, or excuse me, the name that I added right here. So the name of Sam inside of profile is going to overwrite the name of Alex. So all these additions into this object are going to be evaluated from left to right. So if I run this, I'll see that I have the name Sam. I did not overwrite it with Alex because I added in name of Alex first, and then I overwrote that with the original name of Sam. Now, if we ever want to remove a property from an object, usually in traditional JavaScript, we could possibly say delete state.name. That's actual valid JavaScript syntax right there. Just to give you a quick example, we could say delete profile.name. And now if I reference profile, you'll see that the object is now empty. So that is a mutation to our object. Again, we do not want to do that. That is bad. So I'm going to add profile.name back in. Again, this is a mutation. We don't want to do that. That is bad. And I can see that, again, I've got a name of Alex inside that object. Okay, so now to actually remove a property from this thing, we can either kind of use a kind of janky way that I don't really recommend right here, where we would essentially overwrite a property with a value of undefined. And so an example of that would be like ... profile with name undefined. And you'll notice that when we do that, it does kind of remove that property by setting the key's value equal to undefined, but the key value pair still exists inside of here. So it's not really a true removal of that property. A much easier way to do this would be to use the Lodash library. So this is a reference to the Lodash library. That's the underscore right there. Lodash is a very popular JavaScript library for working with objects and arrays. So to give you a very quick example, we could go over to the Lodash documentation. You don't have to navigate over here. I'm just going to give you a very quick example. So this is the Lodash documentation. When I open up the console at the Lodash page, they have very helpfully assigned the Lodash library in the console to the value of underscore. And so you can only write the code I'm about to write on the Lodash documentation page. So if I created a profile over here and said name of Sam, I could then call underscore.omit, pass in my profile, and say that I want to remove the property Sam from that profile. And you'll see that now I get back an object that does not have name inside of it. But I can still reference the original profile, and I see that the original one still has that key value pair. And so omit is not going to mutate that object. It's going to create a new object without the name property. All right, so like I said, you're going to be seeing code like this on the right-hand side extremely frequently inside of reducers that you write. All the statements you see over here, you are going to write inside of a reducer just nonstop again and again and again every time that you are working with an array or an object, and you want to somehow modify what is inside of the given array or object. All right, so now that we've got a better idea of what's going on here, let's take a quick pause, When we come back to the next section, we're going to finally finish off our post reducer now that we've got a better idea of how these reducers really behave. So quick break, and I'll see you in just a minute.